Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm LIANE. I'm LIANE. I'm LIANE. Are you ready to ride the Are you ready to ride the frequency? To ride the frequency? To ride the
Well, hello, fellow humans and non-humans who happen to be watching through any means they may have that we don't know about yet. Today, it's my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce Mr. Stephen Bassett. Stephen Bassett has spoken to audiences in 20 countries about the political implications of UAP ET phenomena and disclosure, the formal confirmation by heads of state of an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. He's co-founder of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance and executive director of Paradigm Research Group, a 501c3 nonprofit providing education, consulting, analysis, and political activism for a post-disclosure world. His advocacy work has been well covered by national and international media, including CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, Washington Post, and New York Times. Bassett has done over 1,500 media interviews. Many of these interviews, presentations, and appearances in documentary films are well represented on YouTube. In 2013, PRG organized and conducted a citizen hearing on disclosure at the National Press Club in Washington. In November of 2014, PRG launched a 2-year political initiative out of Washington, D.C. that injected the ET issue into the 2016 presidential campaign. In December 2023, Steve co-founded the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance in Los Angeles, a new media-centric organization aiming to align those working with the UAP-ET research arena with writers, directors, producers working across every facet of the global entertainment industry. PRG is presently working to help bring about ever more comprehensive congressional hearings in the U.S. House and Senate for a growing list of UAP witnesses. This includes an activist project titled Shiftform. Okay, guys and gals and ETs, welcome Mr. Stephen Bassett. Welcome to Riding the Frequency, Steve. I really appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure.
Well, I guess let's just start with people call you a fear monger, but you call yourself an optimism monger. Thank God. And I would tend to agree, and I find that there's a fine line between being a fear monger and just informing people of things in a neutral manner.
Well, let me clarify here, because again, I make a joke about that. I'm not a fearmonger, but the reason that that comes up is because I very much am aware of the connection between the extraterrestrial history and issue and the nuclear arms race that we've had. They're very tied together, and we're at a threat of having one of those. And so I bring that up a lot, and people see that as fear mongering. I get it. Okay. A real fear monger is constantly spreading fear about everything, not even legitimate stuff. But the funny thing about it is that I'm even more famous for being a ridiculous optimist.
I would say that the mainstream news is more of a fear monger, and
Sure.
it's subversive in that the fear mongering they do is we're zombified to it, basically. Like we just accept, watching the Twin Towers come down, and then when some Yahoo comes along and says that was a frequency weapon, steel doesn't turn into dust unless they're using advanced technology that they've reverse engineered. And
So
then
anyway,
people,
I'm very optimistic about disclosure. I constantly propose it that way because you have to, if you're an activist, you have to keep people involved, trying to point out the positives when it's coming. And so I get accused of being, ridiculous optimist. But then I got this other side that people are saying, yeah, you're a fear monger because of the nuke. And so I said, okay, we'll just resolve this. I am an optimist monger, and so we must move on, right?
just leave it there. All right. Well, post-world disclosure or post-disclosure world rather,
Mhm.
and changing the worldview. Like I'm just trying to, like, I'm Maxwell's silver hammer here because we can't pussyfoot. We don't have time in this 1 hour. So, a post-disclosure world, like really the health of that depends on how quickly the mindset can change in 8 billion people. And I hate using the word, I would argue that, but I would converse with you over the idea that everything starts with an idea. And to change the worldview, it's the concepts that we cuckold that need to be broken up, dispersed, and made room for new concepts to come in. It's the closed-minded problem, I think, more than anything.
Well, worldview change is not easy.
Of
Uh,
course.
and it on a large scale doesn't happen too much, but in fact, it has been a significant factor in the development of our society. Sometimes you can get a worldview change that goes negative, you can get it go positive, all right? And so um, as 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 we've struggled with the problems of the modern era, which stem from the fact that we've overpopulated the earth. We've got 8 billion people, we can't take care of them. And we've got massive of armaments and massive weapons, which is what we do. So we have a very dangerous, threatening world. People are scared, which makes them to be more hyper partisan, and it's all going to hell. I mean, there's no question that we're heading right over the cliff. All right,
Like
so
lemmings
and that's
chasing
not
each
good.
other.
So
No, it's
you
not.
want to stop that. The way you stop it is a X number of people have got to see the world in a different way. Not all 8 billion. You hear numbers like 6, 7, 8%. If 7% of the world's population really had a significant change of worldview in a certain direction that was helpful, which would be that would be about 600 million. All right, that's not too bad, right? 600 million. Uh, that could do it. All right. So what do I mean by worldview change? Um, in this case, the worldview change is very basic and simple to define, and that's helpful, right? For instance, in order to move away from slavery and extreme segregation and racism, uh, we couldn't really do it by outlawing it. No, the way it finally got better is over time, enough people changed their worldview about that. It's usually generational. Sometimes the way that worldviews generally change is generational. In other words, you have something that needs to go in a certain direction, and the kids of people with a harsh worldview are not quite as harsh, and their kids are a little less harsh. And that's how we've evolved in a lot of ways. A lot of the best things that humans have come from worldview changes over multiple generations. Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury anymore. We've got to the point where we don't have 5 generations to kind of get out of this. We have to be ready to go to war and slaughter everybody. So now we're up against the wall. So we need a rapid, dramatic worldview change that transcends generational change. And it just so happens we have one available to us, and we have had for 78 years. And that is that we are a spacefaring civilization that lives in a world where there are other spacefaring civilizations. So we're not alone. There's other intelligent life. There are other planets. This is a profound change of view. Um, and while there are a lot of people that sort of accepted this now, it's not the same thing as having it confirmed to you. It's certainly not the same thing as having the information pouring out and available to you. And so this this worldview is dramatic, the greatest I think, event in human history. It's very profound, and it will be global, meaning that within a week, 2 weeks, anybody that has access to media, unless you're in the middle of an Amazon or something, living underground, everybody is going to know that this has happened. So most of 8 billion people are going to know within a short amount of time that we do have non-humans here. They are not from here. They were not born here. They have bases here. They're dealing with us, but they're from other planets. And that's going to ultimately start making them think in a different way. And it is that moment when this new way of thinking is taking place, where a lot of people who know this is coming take advantage of that and say, now that you see the world is this way, in fact, this is what's going on in this universe and our place, let's re-examine all those other things that are causing us pain, suffering, and threatening our very existence. And there's a decent chance that 7 or 8% are going to say, yeah, let's do that. And that's pretty much the simplest way to put it.
That was pretty simple and succinct. I find it difficult sometimes to articulate things without babbling, and I've gotten called out by my audience in comments about that. So, like, hence I'm holding the fidget spinner so I can just not do that to you or them or myself. And that
It's
was
okay to babble. You just have to be entertaining. As long as
Is
you're
it?
entertaining, you can babble.
Can I say that when somebody trolls me? Steve said it was okay as long as it's entertaining.
Yeah, but that means you got to be entertaining. It's got to be good babble, entertaining babble.
Well, and that brings me to another, I probably should let's stick. Come on, Leanne. Hold it together. Um, okay, that was a succinct way of saying it. There are other things. I feel like the worldview. I mean, we're back to when you started pointing at your head, and even though it seems like I'm jumping to another topic, it's not. All the abductions, all of the closed contact that's been going on. I'll
Sure.
call it closed contact because it's
Mhm.
not. They landed at the deli downstairs and went and had a sandwich with the past the mortadella Steve, It
Sure.
wasn't like that, not yet.
Mhm.
But, and I hope in our lifetime we see open contact. But that being said, this closed contact, it's happening more and more. And the observation that I made was, well, it seems like these ETs are getting a little impatient. More and more
Okay.
channelers are popping up. Remote viewing is a thing. I practice it. I had a nice talk with Nancy Duterte and Rick Doty.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, and there's another fella named Sebastian Martin.
Hmm.
I admit that I watch Cosmic Disclosure on Gaia, and one of the things you said in the Mara podcast, I know this is a long way of getting to things, um, is that once we have anti-gravitics and all of these things, well, what's to say we don't, and that's part of the big lie. Sebastian Martin is saying that the pyramid in Alaska, they dug out a huge dome. It's bigger than the Giza pyramid. It's a functioning technology. And he's claiming that we have an armada of, a couple thousand motherships that recharge there and that they've gotten the ancient technology working.
Yeah.
So that said, the public and part of our government, like the congressmen, like poor Tim Burchett and Luna and Mace, I'm sure they're thinking things like what's coming out of my mouth, but they're in the position they're in, so they don't dare say anything because they can't. But I'm saying, what if part of it is that we're already there? We've been there, Mr. Rich. We can send ET home. What year was that? I
Long
mean,
time ago. Hmm.
right. So if this is the case, we've had antigravitics mastered for decades.
Hmm.
Right. And like you and I just are going, and but the
Well,
public might get outraged.
yeah, the history of this phenomena is complex and deep. Several thousand books have already been written, hundreds of documentaries. I mean, it's a huge, vast
And
subject.
that's why people get murdered.
Sure.
Sorry.
And not only that, but it's the government says there's nothing to it. So being able to properly engage it and have the funds to do so is not there. So when I said when I'm talking about this worldview change, I put it as simple as I possibly could. It is learning, is having the full confirmation for all, which means the heads of state of nations around the world are going to be confirming it, and it's virtually going to be established truth. Now, the truth, what we'll learn, is not just that we're not alone, or it's a lot more than that, and so it comes in a very complex package. So, but the total package will affect the worldview change. For instance, I believe that we have, and quite a few of my colleagues believe the same, that we have been studying the anti-gravitic technology that we've gotten in through crash vehicles, and we've been looking at the science, and I think we have our own versions of it. Now, that I think is well established. There are many theories out there, or not say theories, there are many speculations or assertions out there about all kinds of much more elaborate things, like again, Antarctic and stuff like that you just mentioned.
It's
I
huge.
have no idea if they're true or not.
Huh.
So I stick to the basics, which is, yeah, do we have any gravitic tech? Yes. And so we will find out about that post-disclosure. So now, how is that a worldview impactor? Big time. Why? Because there are plenty of people that are already saying, and they will continue to state after disclosure and the confirmation of this anti-gravitic work that we've done, as well as eventually actually having access to it, that people are going to point out that that technology is transformative, that if we use it to help solve problems and not just weaponize it, we have ability to do some changes that you couldn't do before. And so what you're now saying is like, yeah, you look at the world a different way. We're not alone. And guess what? Because we're not alone, because ET crash vehicles have come into our possession and we have studied them, we have some technology that could be extremely helpful. And that's going to help people shift their worldview. Okay, ETs are here, so what? Well, we're not alone, and also we have look, we're going to learn about this tech. And so the whole package will ultimately everything we will have confirmed, right? Because 90% of every speculative theory that's come out is false. But there are a certain group that are true. Everything that is confirmed for us is going to help shape how people decide how they're going to behave post-disclosure. And so in post-disclosure, there will be people that say, oh, okay, we've got that now. We want to, let's weaponize it. Let's really weaponize it. Let's get going so we can protect ourselves against all our enemies. And other people are going to have to step in and say, if you start a weaponized ET weaponization or ET tech weaponization race, you guarantee the destruction of humans. So whatever. So this the whole package. And the job of the activist is to get us to that place, not resolve every theory, speculation, every witness that comes out, true, not true, valid, not valid. Okay? Not that there's anything wrong with people seizing on those things and enjoying them, but they are ultimately a distraction from the fact that the government would be happy for us to consider 10,000 theories as long as we don't challenge their control of the fundamental truth. And
Right.
that's where the activist is narrow, focused, end the truth embargo, resolve what's true and what's not, and then move forward based on truth, not an ocean of speculations.
Yeah, I mean, and if the right thread were to be pulled and the sweater to be unraveled, the people who are in control of the narrative, which keeps the majority of us in the dark as to what's actually going on, they're going to have to be forced to sit down. But they're pretty white knuckly and grabby and murderous. They unalive people a lot. And, I feel like the World Wide Web is probably their worst enemy
Sure.
because, right, they created something. I mean, I have my own thing about the World Wide Web being some kind of fake consciousness. Like, and this brings me to, like, again, ET is helping push this. I'm just calling them ET just to keep it simple.
Yeah,
Um,
gotta call them something.
Right, I know. Like family is what I tend to refer to them
Yeah,
as.
that's an
Um,
option. Mhm.
like hopefully it'll be revealed what junk DNA is, and maybe one of the theories that's going around that we're all related will come to the fore. I would love that one to happen.
Very possible that. I agree.
Well, come on. It's very probable. I mean, it's starting that the scale is starting to get a little, heavy on that side for
The
me.
evidence is non-trivial.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is what I would love to talk to Dr. Gary Nolan a little bit. I can't believe he's 64. I thought he
Probably
was.
right around
Oh
that.
no,
He's a very
he said, I can't believe I look at him. He looks like he's in his 40s to me.
he's a young 64, no question. A good guy
Well,
too. I like Gary a lot. He's a very good guy.
um, but I want to talk to you about you. Okay, I can talk to Gary about Gary. Not that much time.
Okay, so true.
It's the
If you
Steve
do talk
Bassett
to him, give him
show.
my regards. Yes, go ahead.
If you talk to him, tell him to come talk to me. I'll trade
Fair
you.
enough. That's a fair exchange.
Um, Consciousness, psychic, I think the species is psychic. I think we're a psychic species. Otherwise, why would monkeys on another, start washing their potatoes? So this whole mind view,
You
it's
mean
just
that the monkey, that 100 monkey theory? Yeah.
right,
Yeah, sure.
right. So if that's fact, then, little by little, as one person changes their belief system, the thoughts, which go out in waves, will reach somebody else who's like-minded on the same frequency, and they'll think at two friends, and they'll think it's like the L'Oreal commercial through the Wi-Fi of psychic,
Sure.
but every single last person that has come out and said anything, they talk to me, but not with words.
One of
Personally,
the many things embedded in the ongoing uh, disclosure process is that the aspects of the human brain which have been either hidden, uh, mostly hidden,
how about
are going to
calcified is a
emerge.
good word.
Yeah,
Calcified,
they're
pineal
going
gland.
to it's going to emerge, and this is a significant thing. One of the dilemmas that the government faced as they're trying to decide whether they want to go public with this and just let us know, going all the way back to the beginning, is it very, I don't know exactly when it was confirmed to them, but one day we'll find out. But probably pretty early on, they learned that these ETs are telepathic, uh, and that the government certainly checked in with contactees. Plus, the government has contactees that are working in government under classified status, in which case they're totally safe to talk to. They don't hurt them or anything. Hey, they give them a raise, and tell them, hey, wow, let's sit down. Tell us what you're seeing. And so they've learned early on that the ETs are telepathic. Now, this is a huge issue, which is not given enough thought by many who are in this field.
Because
So
I
the
think
fact
it
is that,
scares them, Steve, just us to interject. I think it frightens people. Like if they're psychic, then they can read my, like the fear of the unknown is a problem. Like that needs to be rethought and massaged a little bit too. I feel like.
yeah.
Don't you?
So when the government learned that, they were very concerned, because if these entities are able to read our minds and we are able to receive images and information from their minds, while we don't have the control knobs that they do, clearly the mechanism is there, and there is some means in which that information can pass. Okay, so there's that. And they knew about that early. And the idea of, and they knew, I think the government calculated that if in fact they confirmed the ET presence, say in 1952, then and then the contact stuff would come out, the telepathy would come out, and huge resources in the public sector were going to be poured into finding out how that works. And they didn't want that. A telepathic public is not something that authorities would ever want to deal with. And so they're dealing, but that drew them into the whole idea that information can be passed between human brains. How is that happening, and so forth? And the Soviets were already doing that. I don't know about the Chinese. And so what happened, and I don't think it was accidental, that in the aftermath of Roswell and so forth, as you move forward, a lot of very classified, what we'll call paranormal research started taking place in the Soviet Union and in the United States that we wouldn't learn about until decades and decades later in various ways, like the film The Man Who Stared at Goats.
How
And so
about the
now
telepathy tapes?
they're opening, well, that's brand new. I mean, no, but I'm going back 50, 60 years.
Right.
And so but they started looking into the paranormal with lots of classified books There was some efforts to look into it in the public sector, but not much. It was ridiculed, of course. The government is going to undermine anything that they don't want to get into. And so you had a paranormal section develop at Princeton. You had some paranormal and work developing at Duke. That was about it. But eventually they shut it all down because it was starting to get somewhere. And so they started looking into a lot of things. They studied telekinesis without question. They certainly studied telepathy without question. But one of the most profound things, I don't know exactly how they got there, was remote viewing. They started to look into that for whatever reason. And what they discovered is apparently it is doable.
Yeah.
Now, telepathy is one thing, and remote viewing is something altogether different and more profound.
Yes.
It's one thing to have two brains that can communicate without having to speak, big deal. But when you can project into whatever, the void, in such a way that your brain is able to allow you to draw pictures of something that is thousands of miles away, sometimes even without having an actual target, you are now engaging into a field, right? There's something going on here, even more profound as a transferring media than telepathy. And that really got their attention. All right.
Well, I've got
And
a whole book. Like I'm a 10th grade, not even. I finished 9th grade and went to 10th grade for like 2 weeks. And then when I came home here to my mom's, I'd signed up for a class with Alan Steinfeld. You know Alan?
yeah,
So he taught a very loosey-goosey,
how
easy
long ago
peasy.
was that?
Alan?
Yeah, how long did when you signed up with him?
It was in 2020. I was here taking care of my mom, and classes would be at her dinner time. And I'm telling you, she would reach in and see stuff too. I was just playing for fun because she was loopy by social standards, Parkinson's.
Okay. All right, but you said you dropped out of something and then signed up with sign. What did you
Oh,
drop
I
out?
dropped out of high school. That was a long time. That's also decades ago.
Oh, that's a long time. But recently,
Yeah.
then you
But
go back
recently,
to
I
school.
signed up for a class because I was watching stuff on Portal to Ascension.
Sure.
One of the things I did when I got to New York was drop mainstream TV and started watching all this alt stuff. And it all started making sense to me. And
Sure.
then things that happened in my childhood started coming back. And I thought, uh-oh, uh-oh, something's here go. And right now, just the goosebumps went up all over my body. So I firmly believe we have energy bodies in our wrappers and that when we start speaking truth, I don't know if you've ever had goosebumps go up on you when you're hearing things that make sense to your insides without it making sense to your rational mind, that kind of thing. But
Hmm.
remote viewing is real, people. And it has nothing to do with hold a thought in your head and play psychic games. Two separate things. You can play psychic games with Steve, and you can also, LIANE can be holding something in her hand. And if Steve empties his head of thoughts and gets into a space where, like he said, you can reach into the void,
Yeah.
you'll know exactly what I'm holding. You'll feel something. If it's a marble, you'll feel something cold, small. It's round. I feel like it's got, I mean, that's the kind of thing. It's a feeling thing. You feel into things, which is why they say Ingo never should have called it remote viewing. You should have called it something else. And I'm going to shut up now. It's your turn. But I
But
just
the
wanted to
point I'm
say,
making is that the extraterrestrial presence confirmation comes with a huge number of side orders, right? That may be the entree, but the side orders are pretty profound. And all of these are going to be relevant to this worldview change. Uh, but again, it's going to be, that's why, but it's complicated. And that's why we need entities forming that where people can have some guidance in dealing with this enormous amount of information that comes attendant with the simple statement, oh, we're not alone. And by the way, bam, 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 bam. And so
Mhm,
the New Paradigm Institute was formed for that. Gary Nolan's Soul Foundation was formed to deal with these
right.
issues. And then politically, the UAP Disclosure Act, and you've got ICER, and you've got CSIU. There and even MUFON is starting to expand and try to get ready because this is the greatest paradigm shift in history. It opens up more doors than probably anything that has ever happened to the human race,
Sure.
and a lot of complicated stuff that will be confusing and difficult, but will certainly change the world. And so our hope is that all the things we learn, or all the things that are confirmed that we didn't know for sure, we're going to use those to get this world fixed. And that includes the technology, antigravitics, in fact, how they travel star to star, that's a big one. And also what we're going to learn more about what the human mind is capable of doing.
Thank God.
And that is one of the great problems that the human race is dealing with. And I don't want to blame it so much, is that we didn't really start to come to understand how extraordinary the human brain was until relatively recently. Going back in history, we knew some people were smarter than others, blah, 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 get that. But a full understanding of the scope of this thing and what it can do, no. Now we're starting to get an idea. And I mean, there are more neurons. There's many neurons in your brain, any reasonable brain, than there are stars in our galaxy, 200 billion. There are more synapses in our brain than the number of galaxies in the universe, which we think could be 2 trillion. And so that is up there. Okay. Okay, great. But what's the point I'm trying to make? We act like it's not there. We act like it's just another organ.
Right. Like you can say that and people don't even flinch and they don't understand. Like when I say things like we think 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, that's a lot of thoughts. And we don't think about, like, if you think about your day, like how many times do you blink? Like that's got to be in the thousands too. We don't. But so if we were to change our, how we identify, if I identified as something that was tantamount to something more complicated than the whole galaxy right here in my wrapper, like that's a different way of looking at myself. It's not the way media, mainstream, and the biofeedback we get from the people who are in charge, whoever quote they make us feel like we're glitched. We need things to fix us. If we don't look young forever, there's something wrong. Like completely obsessed with all these things that are so superficial and have nothing to do with, like, we are the 0 point, I feel like, but we don't treat ourselves like that.
Again, that's a worldview change we'd like to see. But what I'm getting at is even bigger in a sense. In other words, every one of the 8 billion people born into this planet had that brain with those neurons. You are born with more neurons than as you get older, you lose them. And so, and what nature has done is, like, when a child is born into the world, it has even more neurons, more synapses, so that they can learn as much as possible, become as aware as possible to have a better survival rate. This is genius. And so what we have is we brought 8 billion people into this world. And we know a lot about what people are capable of. We know there are kids that are 3 and 4 years old that can play Mozart on the piano, right? There are savants that can do unbelievable things. We know that the brains are capable of this, and yet we treat newborn children in this world as if you just had a puppy. We don't teach them now. We can't teach them. There's so many. We don't have the resources. And so the vast majority of all the little brains born into this world are underdeveloped, undereducated, not given a chance to really expand. And so we end up with an unbelievable number of underachieving adults unable to use this unbelievable brain. But it gets worse because we relish in sports and activities where you beat the shit out of it, right? Pound the brain, martial arts, football, whatever, boom, boom, boom. While they're kids, we are, when it comes to the brain, as a collective species, we're unbelievably ignorant. And so we're literally wasting that. What we are doing is creating too many of these kids with these brains. We can't service any of them really appropriately. And so now that just magnifies the problem. I'm hoping in the post-disclosure world, when we're going to learn just how profound the brain is as part of some of this research becoming available, they're realizing, wait a minute, if there's one thing we have to do as a society, is that every new human that comes in, we're going to do everything to see to it that that brain learns as much as possible, as fast as possible. And we live in a society right now where there are politicians that would be happy if they didn't learn a goddamn thing, that they remain utterly stupid, so they could be treated like, cogs in a wheel. So this is part of the worldview change that we have to happen, and they have to get to, but as it happens, aspects of the ET phenomenon and the history is going to help bring that out. And we have a conference, a major conference coming up called Contact in the Desert. It's going to be May 29 to June 2. There are at least 50 speakers plus another 4 or 5 panelists, so it's going to be very big. It's going to be a huge. This is the 10th one. And recently, I was successful in getting a key speaker for that conference, and her name is Diane Hennessy Powell.
Oh, thank God you
And the
said that.
reason that I went and got her, well, I say got her,
Oh,
we convinced her to come, is I learned about the telepathy tapes.
thank God.
So now I know about telepathy, I know about the Duke programs, but the telepathy tapes is a breakthrough.
It
So
is.
when
You know
they
what?
put those
Can I
audible
interrupt you
tapes
for
up
just a
there,
second and say one thing? I
yeah,
feel like when Jesus said the meek shall inherit the earth, what's to say he wasn't pointing at autistic, nonverbal autistic who are meek by de facto because they can't, right? And this whole telepathy tapes thing and this Powell woman is part of the people who are able to proficiently use their psychic whatever will then be our new, not leaders, but leaders in forging a new human who understands itself better at that level.
well, that's aggressive.
I'm
I would put it
aggressive.
this way, that and that's some people that don't know what we're talking about. I want to expand here, is that what led to the telepathy tapes was that this woman, an incredibly accomplished woman with all kinds of degrees and background, was working with savants, right? Savant children who are savants for years, because they're a very significant thing. What's going on here? Why is it going on here? And it's a plus, it's a minus. But anyways, but in the process of that, she started to understand that they seem to be telepathic in some cases, particularly with a family member like the mother, but also other. So she noted that and then turned her attention to that, and so out of that came this effort to explore telepathy through savants. Now, does that mean that you have to be a savant to be telepathic? I don't think so, but I think the situation is that whatever is creating this, what we'll call savant condition or status in a person, which some people refer to as autism or part of a scale. There's clearly an aspect of the human brain and that is somewhat special, somewhat defined. Whatever is going on there, it seems to open the window to the ability to do it. Doesn't mean that others can't, but it just means that it opens that window. So she decides to research that. So she does all these interviews that are going to be in a documentary pretty soon. But brilliantly, they made the decision, we'll just put the audio up on the web so people can go free and start listening to this, which means that when that documentary comes out, boy, is it going to do very well. So I read this, I say, my God, this is very significant breakthrough. This is going to take telepathy into the mainstream, where the government doesn't want it, but there's nothing they can do about it now. They shut down Princeton, they shut down Duke, that went private, but this is going to go mainstream because this is the internet. Okay, this is the internet. And so why is that important? Because when she presents at the Contact in the Desert, as her work, particularly when that documentary comes out, if in the mind of the vast majority of people telepathy becomes confirmed, then that validates all the contactees that have stated, I'm having contact, and they're telepathic, which means it helps to validate contact in general,
Yep.
and thus elevates contactees to another status. That is huge.
It's like dominoes. It'll push
She's
the
going to be
dominoes and they'll all start falling. That's
That's right.
right.
So it's another breakthrough. And so I'm kind of thrilled about that.
I would be.
And
We
so that'll
can
be,
stop right there and just take a moment of silence to acknowledge what a huge thing it is that Dr. Powell is going to be a contact in the desert. Just you guys.
Contact in the Desert got a calm. We can hold up to about 2,000 people. And by the way, there's a better than very good chance, but by the time that conference takes place, we are in the post-disclosure world, because we're right at the edge of having disclosure. In which case, that thing is going to be massive. It's going to be this huge celebration.
And you'll probably have, if there is such a thing, I don't know, I'm not, excuse me for being ignorant. I'm on a fast track here. You guys have been doing this for decades. I got here in 2019, turned on Cosmic Disclosure, turned off CNN, and have been having weird experiences um,
You and
ever
many others.
since.
Yeah.
And then realizing I've been having them since before, they're not as blatant. So I try to keep my mouth shut, but it's hard. I keep
Have you
making,
had contact? Do you think you might be a contactee?
I probably am, and I think it's suppressed. I know so many people who are. I have friends. I grew up in Putnam Valley in the summer times, which is Hudson Valley, right up the Taconic.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Were you there when some of those events took place?
I moved to LA in 1987, so I was up there every summer from the time I was a 3-year-old. Um, my dad was a filmmaker. He made a movie called The Flesh Eaters. Had he lived, I'm sure I'd be having very interesting conversations with him right now.
Okay.
Because I feel like it's possible that he was also a contactee, but I don't know. It just the things I know of him now, looking back, kind of smack of it a little bit.
How about your mother? Did she ever
My
talk
mom's
about things
very
like that?
psychic, very psychic. And when she was in the throes of her Parkinson's, she would respond to something I couldn't see. But whatever it was frightening her and making her very, ugh. So I said, "What is going on? Who are you talking to?" She said, "You're going to laugh at me." I said, "No, I won't." She said, "He looks like an alligator." And I thought,
Interesting.
uh-huh, exactly. That's what I said
Yeah.
in my head. So I just kept looking around the room and saying, wherever. I said, "Where is he?" And she would point. And I would say, "Whoever you are, you need to stop it. And if you're somehow like enjoying me being angry at my mom and my mom being scared, and if that's some kind of loose food for you, the fuck out of here." My mom would look at me and go, "You're so courageous." I'm like, "I'm
Yeah.
not putting up with this stuff. Like, I'm your daughter through and through. And the way I talk to you, I'll talk to him too. Like, I'm not putting up with it. It's not happening in my space." So this went on. And then one day she said, "He's finally had it." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "He's walking away." I said, "Really?" Swishing his tail behind him, she said. I'm like, "Oh my God." So, I mean, who knows? I was raised in 3D, but I can't help that there are weird bleed throughs that I can't explain.
Okay. Well, I hope you learn more about that.
I do too, but we're not here to talk about me. That's enough. My audience has heard this so many times. They probably wish I would just be quiet and let the guests speak. Um, Contact in the desert. Well, I'll make every effort to show up. It's a lot right now, but I'll see what I can do about that. Even if I put my parrots in the cage and put them in the back of my SUV and figure out how to drive there.
In other words, wherever you go, the parrots go. Is that how that
It's
works?
kind of like that because the only person I trust with my parrots is somebody who's now kind of estranged, and in LA. So it gets a little complicated logistically, um, but that's okay. So contact in the desert. Instead of talking about how I'm going to get there, let's talk about love that you got, Dr. Powell. Just oh my God. Um, sorry, I'm still stuck there. I need to go
Well,
back
let
to
me
that.
tell you
That,
some
that like
other things
threw
that
me
are.
off.
It's all right. Let me mention some of the other things that are happening. Um, so yeah, let me. Here's the thing I really need to do. Let me very quickly give your audience a quick synopsis of why we're practically home, that we're almost there. Disclosure is this close. And I'm getting better and better at saying fewer and fewer words, but I can do it in 3 hours, trust me. So,
I
uh,
wish we had 3 hours and I would just mute myself and let you talk. There's
well,
a challenge.
we can do another interview sometime.
Challenge for LIANE. Shut up.
7 years ago, everything changed when the To the Stars Academy group came out from publicly, including made up of 10 individuals from the military intelligence community, retired, decided to get going. In other words, they decided we're going to risk it. We're going to come out, part of an organization that could make some money, but they were going to lose a lot of potential retirement contract money. So, everybody knows some of them, like Malin Elizondo, uh, and uh, uh, I'm having a blank. Elizondo, oh, Gary Nolan, Steve Justice, though he stepped back. And then there was Semi Van and put off, but there were 10. They put their name behind the fact that they're certain that there's an ET presence, and then they proceeded to do stuff. And the major breakthrough initially was the New York Times stories about ATIP and Reed's work. That then triggered interest over in Congress. And then for the next 2 years, the witnesses and people were coming up on the Hill privately, talking to people in the most appropriate committees, Armed Services, Intel. And so slowly the heads of a lot of people up on the Hill were getting filled up with what's going on, right? Kind of educating them, getting them aware and comfortable. Took a couple years of that. But it led to the first legislation ever on this subject, which was put forward in July of 2020, signed in December of 2020 by President Biden. Now, then the Republicans came in, Trump became president. The next year, there was another piece of legislation put forward. Now, and the first piece of legislation was part of the omnibus $3 trillion COVID bill. That's an easy one. But the next one was in the National Defense Authorization Act, which is one of the most important acts. And so everything in it is important. And then there was another piece of legislation passed in the year after that, and another after that. So we've had 4 pieces of legislation. Meanwhile, a whole bunch of members of Congress have been briefed, not only by witnesses, but also by by classified briefings coming in. So the whole structure has been building and building and building. They created an entity, UAP task force. They then expanded on that and renamed it more appropriately, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARRO, the NASA, which obviously knows about the ET presence but can't go there, set up a UFO study group, I guess you could say. And things were just happening and happening. And then the media jumped in, who's always covered this, but the professional media that we love or hate has generated at least 7,000 substantial articles, because I have them all archived on my website, 7,000 since 2017. So that is happening. All right. And then the first hearing took place since 1968, May 17th, 2022. Since then, there have been about 8 hearings, 2 of which are very substantive. You had the emergence of very significant witnesses like David Grush, and on and on and on. And so this thing has been getting closer and closer and closer. In 2023, Chuck Schumer, who was the Senate Majority Leader, stepped in with the 4th bill, a massive omnibus bill that was everything we needed to effectuate disclosure, orderly and under law. That bill was pared back because it was a bridge too far, and it was resubmitted the next year, the full bill. But because of the political situation, we were heading toward the election, it was pulled. But in the meantime, the issue is all over the place. And we've got members of Congress, literally for the first time, sitting members of Congress going in front of cameras on news programs saying, there's extraterrestrials here. We have crashed vehicles. That's unprecedented. Now, that's happened not once, not twice, but dozens of times. And so all of that is pushing us closer and closer. But the final resolution could not happen. We got to the point where it was too late to wrap it up under the previous administration. It was just too late. And so it was going to pass to the next one. Fine. Then the question was, will the next administration get it done? Okay. And what we discovered is, wow, the stage is set. Here's where we are now. The 9th hearing, the 3rd major hearing, could happen at any time. It'll be in the House subcommittee. Nancy Mace will probably chair. All right. There's already been 2 very significant ones. Right. Number 2, surprisingly, the House Oversight Committee, chaired by Comer, made a very big move. And that move was to set up a task force called the Task Force on Declassifying Federal Secrets. Haven't had that before. Gave it subpoena power through the committee and made it clear they were going after the JFK suppressed docs, MLK suppressed docs, RFK suppressed docs, the Epstein client list, and of course, UAPs as well. And they're on a fast track. That is happening. Meanwhile, we learned that a number of people in the Trump circle of advisors and so forth were supportive of the president going there. The president has been asked more about this than any other person, but except possibly Clinton. And there's any presidential candidate or president than Clinton, but it's close. He's been asked 9, 10, 12 times. His answers have been sometimes ambiguous, but never totally dismissive. Clearly, he's aware of it. All right. And so we really strongly suspected that this could break pretty quickly. A hearing in the House, the president comes forward, end game, we have disclosure. But can't be sure until 3 days before the inauguration, which was January 20 of this year. Something happened I didn't see coming, like this task force. I learned, didn't know, that Donald Trump Jr., had a podcast. Who doesn't, right? And he's got 1 million followers. Okay? He's got 1 million followers. That's a lot of followers. So it's a big deal. And so I was sent a link. And I brought it up and watched it. And who was Donald Trump Jr. interviewing 3 days before his father was inaugurated? Louis Elizondo and Ross Coulthard.
I
Major
love
players
Ross, by
in
the
the
way. I
process.
have to say, huge fan of Ross Coulthard.
He's a
Love him.
6'6" solid Australian. I love the guy. And
He's
he's the one that broke the
6'6"?
Grush story. He broke the Grush story with an interview.
You
So
can never tell how tall these guys are. I'm sorry. Here's Leanne's ADHD hopping in again. He's 6'6".
6'6", yeah. So there
Ross
is no
Coulthard.
there's no way that John Jr. is interviewing these men for an hour and a half unless his father has green lighted it, if not asked for it.
Yeah,
And so
100%.
at this point, we are literally right there. And it will happen one of two ways, and it could happen at any time. Probably not until Mace has her hearing, but not necessarily. In other words, it could be weeks away from this breaking. All right. And there's two ways it can go down. One, the way that we've been moving towards, and it is the most orderly, is one more major hearing, which I felt needed to be a Senate hearing, but no longer. The House subcommittee, oversight subcommittee, is more than adequate, but we need an even higher level of witnesses. And I've been working with them on that and helping. And the consensus, I think, of the committee is they want the nuclear shutdown witnesses, the SAC base officers that were present when the nukes were shut down on several occasions. These are massive witnesses. These are incredibly significant. This will be a worldwide event. There will be hundreds of millions of people watching it at some point. So those witnesses are in play. And so one way it happens is the oversight subcommittee has one more hearing. They bring in Bob Salas, Robert Jameson, David Schindel, and Robert Jacobs. They all sit down, they take the oath, like they sort of did with a mock oath in 2013 when I brought some of them in to testify the citizen hearing on disclosure.
Circle back to that.
Boom. And then within a day or two, the president will walk out and say, look, clearly, we're not alone. I'm confirming it. That's disclosure. The other way it can happen, though, and this couldn't happen before, but can now, is the current president doesn't need to have that hearing. He can simply walk out and do it anytime he wants to.
Well, his personality is that of somebody who would just, guess what? I'm adding an executive order today, and it's the mandating of you got to tell everybody we're not alone, period, and we're done. Thanks, Donnie. Bye. Like
there have been 14 presidents that have had this choice, and none of them have done it, gone there. Carter tried to sort of go there. He was shut down quickly. Clinton sort of tried to go there, shut down very quickly. We weren't going to press it. But none of them were like this president.
No.
And so he is a person who, if he wants to do it, he'll just do it.
That's right.
If 25 generals tell him it's not a good idea, he'll say, I'm going to do it.
I don't
anyway.
care. Right.
And more importantly, the people that are in the high positions this time around are not just, well, very responsible, very quote accomplished, but whatever, that are picked by the president, nonpartisan. He is picked loyalist. At the CIA, he's picked loyalists. Hang on a second. Let me get rid of this.
That's okay. Do you want to take a call? I can pause this for a second.
No. So he has picked virtual loyalists at all the key positions. The National Defense, NDI, the CIA, the Department of Defense. And so if he were to go to those people and say, do you think I should disclose? They'll say, whatever you want to do, Mr. President. And so there is no barrier for him to simply come out and do it. All right. And that's also disclosure. Now, the hearings will follow immediately after that. Lots of hearings. The only difference between these two options, the president unilaterally, boom, or following a major hearing that sets him up, is that if he does it unilaterally, like because suddenly there's a press conference called and the press all huddle in the Oval Office, and he sits at the desk and says, "I've talked to some people. They've asked around. Everything you've heard, absolutely true. We're not alone. We've got non-human technology here." The only difference is if he does it unilaterally, some of the other heads of state are going to be a little hesitant. They're going to hold back for a bit. They're not going to jump right in because of who he is and his approach to things. They're going to be a little tentative. On the other hand, if he follows a hearing, a major hearing, like I've discussed, then I think the other heads of state will be there. Boom. In other words, within 48 hours, Prime Minister of Canada. Yeah, it's true. We've always known. UK. Yes, it's true. Okay. France, Germany, Spain, pick them.
Well, Paul Hellyer was going on about it forever, rest his souls.
Yeah, but he wasn't the head of state. He wasn't the prime minister. He was
No, he wasn't, sadly. He was on the Ministry of Defense, I guess, or something.
And so they'll just come in. And so what happens is Donald Trump, if this goes the way I think, will be the disclosure president. He will receive one of the greatest political legacies of any leader ever, which I think we can all agree is something that this particular man would cherish, enjoy, like to have. All right. But he will not be the king of the post-disclosure world because very quickly, all of the major countries will have confirmed. They will tell their citizens, oh, yes, we've known. We have stuff. We have evidence too. Their citizens will go, why didn't you tell us? We're irritated by that. And they'll say, because we deferred to the most powerful nation in the world that had the biggest nuclear force protecting us from our quote, enemies, either the Chinese or the Russians and Soviets, pick one, particularly the Soviets, early us. In other words, we deferred. We were not going to cut in line and undercut the United States. That was the only thing standing between Canada or Germany or Spain or anything else from being swept over by other nuclear powers, such as the Soviet Union. And their citizens go, oh, we get it. And there we are. And so either one of these things could happen at any time, though I think it's still weeks away. That's how close we are. I'm not blowing smoke here.
No, I don't think you are. I mean, so many times, oh, this is the year, this is the year. Everybody's sick of hearing that. However, like the ingredients of the cake weren't quite exactly what they are now. Like there were some missing ingredients. Now we're ready to stick the cake in the oven and bake it, I feel like. So whoever was president right now might be the one. However, this guy psychologically, like you can tell, like you said, he doesn't care. If he feels like saying something, he will. So the idea that we could go to sleep tonight and then wake up tomorrow to an announcement is completely within the realm of not crazy.
Exactly. I went to sleep and woke up the next day and discovered there's going to be a task force on declassifying federal secrets and they're going after everything.
Right.
What can I say? And they're real. I assure you, they're not. Anna Paulina Luna is deadly serious about it.
No, she is. And Mace, like you said, I was aggressive when I made my comment, but like, you know, she turns me into like tiny aggressive, Ms. Mace does.
Because they're serious.
She's got Maxwell's hammer also, and she's not scared to use it or climb in through the bathroom window to do it. But you know,
and the Democrats could have led this. They had plenty of opportunity. They chose not to. Their reasons are many, I assure you, and that's fine. So
JFK tried.
If people are irritated that very conservative Republicans are leading the disclosure movement, all I can say is that the more progressive or liberal politicians that maybe you prefer didn't do it, and so they have nobody to blame but themselves.
Well, I can blame you for something. Like seriously,
okay.
like
Go
on. Can you take it? Are you sure?
Yeah.
If you can dish it out, you have to be able to take it. So when I got here to New York and started watching interviews with extra dimensionals, that was one of the first shows I started watching.
Of course.
Right. And so I decided I was going to talk to Ruben a little bit, and he was kind enough to do a back and forth with me on Facebook. And then I was talking to him, and I was what's the word? Just sort of fake languaging stuff like at my birds, right? And he's like, dude, that's light language. That's not fake talking. I'm like, it's what now?
Okay.
I didn't know about light language. I didn't know anything about light language. Ruben sent me that something and showed me, and I thought, huh, okay. Put that to the side. One of the other things that I saw was the citizens disclosure and the whole, how many hours of it? 30 hours?
30 hours testimony over 5 days, 10
I didn't have the
42
money.
weeks.
Right. Okay. So I didn't have the cash to buy it. He said, if you want to do quality control on it, I'll send it to you for free, but no sharing. I thought, okay, that's fair. Dude, I watched the whole 30 hours and didn't do any QC because I was just like, huh? Oh
Well, I'm
my
glad that I'm
God.
impressed. I'm impressed.
So I
Uh,
watched it 3 times.
and it's now available for free if you want to share it with other people.
And you
It's
don't
on
have to
YouTube
do
for free.
quality control in exchange for the pleasure of watching it. But like, that's part of if people were to watch that, that would be a good start to educating yourself without getting scared. I mean, JJ Hurtak, there he was, like all these people that I now see in the woo community sitting in the gallery
It's
going,
the most
oh my
important thing that
God.
I've done in my career so far was to
Well,
sit
can
and
we
sit
do it
everyone on
again?
close.
I know you got contact in the desert. You want to do it again. Like, I want to, can I help you? I want to do it
Well,
again.
well, we don't need, hopefully not to have to do it again. In other
Right.
words, that
Nice.
was a mock congressional hearing to show the Congress and others in DC, well, this is what it would look like if you actually held hearings. And it was great, and everybody loved it. It was important. And we sent and a copy of the entire 30 hours was presented to every single congressional office, 535. But it was 2014. The election was coming up. But well, I say it's 2014. Look, Hillary Clinton was going to disclose, and all of this was to help her do it. And that was a window of opportunity, but it closed. All right.
Right.
Now, what I want to do next is uh, I want to start conferences again. I've done 6 conferences called the X conferences. I want to do a startup again, and they'll be like before. I went X conference 2004, 5, 6, and then 8, 9, 10. This would be X conference 2025. I know where to hold it. I know how to do it. I've done it before. Could be a very significant conference. However, I'm going to have to raise at least 20,000 to be able to lock the date down, which
Okay,
is
but wait, so
why.
that's 20,000 for that and 25,000 for contact in the desert, did you say? What
No.
did you need the 25 for? Was it
Yeah, the
this?
20, no, they're the same thing.
Okay, okay,
I'm
okay.
trying to raise 20,000 for a X Conference 2025. In other words,
Okay,
this would
okay,
be
okay.
TRG's next major event, would be held at the National Press Club in order to secure the date. So in order to help make that happen 7 months ago, 6 months ago, finally, a lot of people say, why did it take so long? Long story. I converted Paradigm Research Group to a 501c3 nonprofit based in the District of Columbia. So now it can accept tax deductible donations. So if somebody donates 25,000, they get a $25,000 tax deduction off their income. And so that's where I'm at now. And I'm fully expecting that this X Conference 2025 will be held in the post-disclosure world, in which case it's going to be a really cool thing.
Do you have a
So that's
date
kind of where I'm at. Yeah.
in mind? Do you have a date?
I don't, because in order to pick a date, I have to be able to secure the press
Okay,
club.
so we need 20 grand to secure the press club, then there'll be a date. I'm gonna make
That's
some
it.
phone calls. Like there are people that I know that are pretty heavy hitters that I don't bother them. I mean, I do every once in a
Hey,
while, but like
hey,
we'll
look, that's
talk
why I do
after. I don't
podcasts.
want to name drop. It's off
No, you
ugly.
don't want to, but I have a full donation module up on the
Can you
site.
send it
So
to
there are
me?
fees involved, and a major hitter, what they would do is contact PRG, and
Okay.
we would arrange a direct contribution, but of
Right.
course it would still be tax deductible. They would get a receipt. But for just people coming and going, the website has a full donate module that does have a glitch I'll have to fix. And so we're getting some donations, but I haven't gotten a breakthrough yet. But I'm going to do what I can do. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for that,
Good.
I'm doing everything I can to make sure that this third oversight subcommittee hearing is a gangbuster. In other words, I will, one of the greatest moments of my life when I'm sitting in that hearing room in the House, the Senate, the House Oversight Committee hearing room, they have a special hearing room. They've had 2. And I'm in that room, and in front of me are Robert Salas, Robert Jameson, David Schindel, and Robert Jacobs standing up with their hand in the air, taking the oath to tell the truth and nothing but the truth to the Senate Oversight Committee, and then sitting down and testifying about how these ETs, which our government says don't exist, would repeatedly turn off our nuclear weapon in a way that simply cannot be done, not only here, but they did it in the Soviet Union. And then I will be sitting there and saying, I'm going to be really over the top. I mean, it's going to be like, wow, it took a long time, but it's happened. And that's going to be one of the most great moments of my life. And it's very likely that that'll happen before I'm able to put the X conference. So I think that overall, I think some money is coming towards PRG. I'm not big, I'm small, but New Paradigm Institute has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars because it's a very big deal. It's a very big entity. I
Well,
think
Romero Institute has been around for a while too, and that was,
yeah,
you know,
sure.
so they
Yeah,
do
I
good works.
think Soul Foundation may have raised hundreds of thousands, maybe even 1 million or two, but that's a major organization of top scientists out of Stanford. And that's great. Okay.
Think
But
about
I'm
how much money is going to get dumped at you post disclosure. Like that's great. Like it'll create jobs. I think all of the people who are experiencers and contactees will have jobs as liaisons to the people who are terrified. Like we've got to close the gap. So
good point.
there'll be a lot of people who are going to need to jump in there and help people who cannot wrap their minds around this.
Yeah,
To
let me finish
oh,
up with this, Leon.
sorry.
Let me finish up with this. You brought a very important area. I'm a small entity, you know. I'm going to start building up a volunteer group and probably consulting group because that's what Paradigm Research Group is coming, not an is a activist think tank, not just an activist get the truth thing. I mean, in other words, we've accomplished the goal. Now, a post-disclosure entity as opposed to a pre-disclosure entity,
Right.
and the point that I'm making is that one of the things I can do because I'm a communicator, and I've done more interviews than any person living or dead on this subject because I had the time because I don't write. I can't write books. I can't sit still long enough. So
Same.
in any event,
Horrible.
one of the mandates of Paradigm Research Group, besides having X Conference 2025, putting together a group that can be, you know, advisory and consulting and so forth in the post-disclosure world. But one of my fundamental goals is this, doing everything that PRG can do to make sure that all of these people that had done the research, wrote the books, did the documentaries, came forward with their testimony for decades when the government was saying you're all crazy, are participating in the post-disclosure world and not shoved aside by a bunch of new hotshots and say, well, you know, we're here now, we'll take it from here.
Yeah, I
And
don't
then,
think so.
then our people would go, well, wait a minute, we did all the work, you know, but you're kind of crazy. What do you mean we're crazy? We were right. And then the response will be, well, yeah, well, you were right, but you were right when it was crazy to be right. And so you're kind of still crazy in that regard. So go away.
Oh,
My job is to help make sure that those people are going to be part of that world. And I'll do what I can do, and others will do that. We cannot be left behind. We've put
no.
in decades of work here, and
Yes.
we're not going to just turn it over to a bunch of people to take it from there and have them turn the new, the post-paradigm world into the same old pre-paradigm world,
Yeah, with an
and shape
alien
it
layer. That's not what
yeah,
we're doing. Right.
can't do that. That can't happen.
No.
So that's one of my goals, one of my key jobs.
Well, I want to help. So after we're done talking here, I'll grab you for another 5 minutes of non-recorded conversation
Sure,
and
we can talk
or we
anytime.
can email each other about that.
Sure.
Okay, and then shift show to avoid the show. You created a shift show,
Oh,
right?
the shift storm.
The shift storm.
That's just a
Sorry, see, there
tiny
you go.
little project. It's
It's
just
a
a
play
tiny
on
little.
words, right? But still, it's still to avoid a other kind of storm.
These
So
are
the
these are
shift
these
storm.
are. I wish you know, I thought about trademarking. Shift happens. I think somebody has.
It's like
Uh,
riding the frequency.
but I could trademark shift storm. I don't think anybody's done that. But it's a simple little project. It's the kind of thing PRG does.
Yeah, but that's the kind of thing that's a simple, you keep using the word little, but you know, I don't think you're a little anything.
That's
I
kind of
think you're a huge something that's, you know, Horton heard a who. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
I
The
understand.
who's of Whoville. It's okay. We're gonna get hurt. And you, my friend, are part of the bullhorn. So
Well, I have a
the
bullhorn, that's for sure.
I wish
Anyway,
I
shift
had one
storm is easy.
sometimes.
All it is I created something that people don't think about. And if you go there, what you quickly learn at shiftstorm.org, which is a subs page of Paradigm Research Group, is that if you want to get a message to say 20 members of Congress that are dealing with this issue and kind of let them know, hey, encourage them. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, you could send emails to every one of them, and that's fine, but it's, you know,
Exhausting though.
what you do is you simply write a message, okay? And then you Twitter tag all of the ones that you want to get that message. Okay, at Senator Schumer, at Nancy Mace, at Senator Burchett, whatever. I mean, Congress Representative, and you get the right tag. I mean, you gotta go follow them and get the tag. And so you Twitter tag them all, and then that message goes to every one of their notification boxes. And anybody that is on Twitter X or X, whatever the hell, knows what I mean by that. And so if you're a member of Congress, you have a staffer assigned to check the notification box on your Twitter account, and they all have X accounts, right? And so these things are piling up in there. And so they go in there, well, look at all these messages, that we're seeing people, hey, thank you for doing that hearing, and we want more, and we want the truth, and blah, blah, blah. It's a way to communicate. And so I set that up back when the reason I set it up was to deal with the situation when they were gutting the first major UAP Disclosure Act and trying to cut it, right? And they did ultimately cut it in half. And so we knew about it. And as we were fighting, or they were fighting to try to get the full bill through, I set up Shitstorm for people to go set Twitter tags to the people in Congress involved, encouraging, don't give up. Don't let them cut that bill. The bill got cut. It's okay. So anyway, that's just a little project. This is kind of things I do, a little project here, there, whatever. Would I like to operate on a more grander scale? Yeah, but I didn't make any money in my life. I was terrible at it. And so I entered the field with nothing. I decided to be a one man, I mean, a sole proprietorship, because if I was back in 90s, 96, 97, if I had been a nonprofit, if they wanted to wipe me out, they can do it like that. If you're a nonprofit, they can literally wipe you out anytime they want to. But if you're a sole proprietor, you're a citizen under the First Amendment. They can kill you, but they can't really do much more than that. But I just didn't convert soon enough. So I've always been operating in kind of like a low level. That's okay. If
It's so
things really
funny you're
go well,
operating at a low level, but with high level
yeah.
concepts and issues.
Yeah, in other words, there are big players. I mean, there are players that have put hundreds of thousands of dollars into this, and made lots of money as well. But I'm just, I'm doing it the way I think that I always going to do it. And my strength is being able to communicate the complexities of these issues to just regular people, right? And not get all, fluffy and everything else. And I just, try to boil it all down, get the speculation stuff out and all the things that draw our attention. I get that. Focus on the fundamental issue and the fundamental goal as an activist. And that's my strength. I didn't fully get that till later. And as it turned out, well, I've never written a book. I did try to do a doc. I did help produce the Citizen Hearing on Disclosure, which became content. But what I have done is I've given more interviews than any living person or dead. Nobody has given more interviews than I have. I'm not bragging so much as pointing out that is what I'm able to do. Now, it didn't hurt that the internet came along and the podcast revolution came along. But I'm probably well north of 1,500 interviews now, speaking to just people, right? Not elite interviews, right? It's some special. No. And I've also
It's a
spoken
little
at
tiring. That's just like the limited hang, then everybody gets to be looking in. And I tend to be, I hope, a little bit more disarming and more like fly on the wall. And I'm just talking to Steve. Like if we were on a phone and this were
Sure,
a private interview, we'd still be having the same discussion. I'm
same
not,
thing. Sure.
there's no smoke and mirrors here. Maybe
One
if
of the things
flying around.
that we have to deal with in our society, one way or another, is that our society is coming apart because the glue that is authenticity is evaporated.
Right.
You have to have authenticity. People talk about truth, truth, truth. I get that. You need truth.
But
But
authenticity is different. That's
it,
that's being comfortable, being vulnerable, saying what you think, saying what you know without any with reckless, well, maybe not reckless, but calculated abandon. How's that?
well said. Or to put it this way, feel free to steal. It's possible to tell the truth in an inauthentic way. All right. Because of how you do it and how you play with it. And why is that bad? It's still the truth. Because if you tell the truth in an inauthentic way, people are much less likely to believe it.
Sci-fi movies
What about them?
telling the truth in a, I won't say inauthentic way, but how much information that has been withheld is laced through all of these stories that we see.
Sci-fi movies are authentic in this way. They're authentically sci-fi. In other words, the geniuses that create these things say, I'm going to create this concept, we're going to deal with it, and they're just very authentic. They're not using it to play with you, like, hey, here's this real authentic representation of what I've come to understand in my head. And it's
Mm.
great. Now, is it the truth of the ETs? No. Have sci-fi movies done more to educate the world about the reality of these ETs than anything else? By bar none. Okay. Only they're a lot
But in a
nastier.
negative light, right? They're
A
going
little
to
more
attack
negative.
us. Right.
But again, this is there are a couple of, and I'll leave you with this. There are two key lessons that I've learned in my life later that I wish I had totally understood when I was 15 or 18.
Hmm.
And I invite any parent to get these two things into their kid's head as early as possible. Because remember, they got 200 billion friggin'
Right.
neurons and 200 trillion, 2 trillion,
Right.
200 billion synapses. One.
Maybe before they're 7, they should get it in there, just like the
Yeah,
Jesuits.
one when they got the most. So one is this: how well you do in life, how satisfied you are in your life and what it does, right? Is far less about what happens to you, and all kinds of shit can happen to you, but how you deal with what happens to you. Same for people, same for countries, all right? And the second truth is that you can tell the truth in an inauthentic way. And that's not it. Authenticity is probably primary. Truth is secondary. Now, can you lie in an authentic way? If you really work at it, it's possible to pull it off. And the most skilled people can do it. And these are incredibly dangerous people. You need to find out who they are and give them something else to do. The truly authentic liar is an incredibly dangerous person, and frequently they are sociopaths. But for those that are trying to get the truth out, if they don't understand that you got to do it in an authentic way, if you're going to play with it or if you're going to try to, hype it in some way or whatever, or make it for your own benefit,
Pervert it to
you
your
just
self-interest,
you
right?
lose 90% of the value. But if you just look at people and say, this is the truth and you're as authentic as you can be, that's when you have the impact. Those two things, I think could make a big difference in anybody's life. All right, my dear,
Well,
this has
Steve,
been
there you go.
fun.
Thank you. Thank you. That's it. Like on that note, you guys be as authentic as you can, and try to tell the truth. And if you don't want people to know something, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it. That's all.
Hmm. Okay, well, my dear, maybe we'll cross paths in the future, but you can call me anytime if you have a question about what's breaking in the news. You have my phone number, you have my email, and so forth. I think I've already put you in my email PRG list, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you have.
And
Thank you. And I have to thank you for letting me be a founding member of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance.
oh, we
Thank
didn't,
you.
we didn't. Oh, wait a minute. Let's talk about that.
Do you have a couple more minutes to
Oh,
do that?
absolutely. Look,
I
look,
was
yeah,
ready to sign off. Yeah, that's a big
yeah.
deal. Look
Well,
at both of
it's your
us.
podcast. You can go as long as you want, right?
Look, we're
Uh,
matching.
Look, Dan Harari, publicist in Hollywood, and I put together the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance about 14 months ago. HollywoodDisclosureAlliance.org. I'm a member. You're a member. It is what it is. It is a pure nonprofit networking entity designed to network people in the content world, all the way up to Spielberg if he wants to join, and people in the ET world, the ET UAP world, who have been working on the issue uh, under the umbrella of the truth embargo. And these people have been separated by and large by this truth embargo that was created specifically to keep them from getting, together. Okay. And so the truth embargo is collapsing. The stigma is gone. Great. But we want to accelerate how quickly they can find each other. And so right now we've got 90 Hollywood founding members, meaning content creator founding members. We've got 90 UAP founding members. Okay. You are in, if I'm not mistaken, the
The Hollywood side.
Hollywood. Of course, you were in the Hollywood side because you've got a career in music and acting and everything else. So now the two sides can find each other. The people in each founding member group can find each other. And the people that are even not in the HGA can go there and see, oh, these are the people that are trying to network. These are the content creators trying to network. And what is the fundamental goal? So that they can work together, make money together. HCA has no piece of the action. It is people do their deals, make the money, get together, make money together, get the message out together, and make sure the message is legitimate and not
Right,
just some
right,
concoction somebody's created, right?
right.
In other words, we need real solid content, well-funded, high level, but making sure it gets it right. And the idea that you can call up a couple of your close friends or some people you worked with on a movie and say, hey, let's do an ET stuff, right? What do you know? Not much, but we'll throw it. No, you need to be talking to all the people on the UAP side of this. HollywoodDisclosureAlliance.org. Someone wants to be involved because they think they fit into the founding member, want you to decide. Get in touch. If our executive committee feels it's appropriate, we'll put you in.
You got
There
to be
you
willing to be in a club that has me in it, though, you guys. Sorry.
That is wrong. No, no, no. You're cool. You're gonna be cool. We like having you. Thank you so much. And
Oh my
again,
gosh.
if you can network with people on this, we'd love to hear from your friends. And
Hey, man, I'll bring my friends, and I think you just gave me permission to go find all of my new friends on either side of the founding member
sure.
list. So that's good because that's
If you want
lots.
to contact somebody in in the HDA, because you are a founding member, you just call either me or Dan and say, "Can I
Okay,
have?" If you don't already have it, can I, or could I have their contact information? And you'll
right.
get it. Okay.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right,
Well,
dear.
okay. So on that note, back to we have each other's contact info. So let's
We
both
do.
use it.
Don't be scarce.
I won't be scarce, nor will I be a stranger. And careful what you ask for, Steve Bassett.
Give my regards to your parrots. They are some of the smartest animals on the planet. You
Eva,
know that, right?
here, you know what? She escaped. Come say hi to Steven. Yeah? You want to say something to Steve?
Oh, hello.
That's Diva. She's the oldest
Diva?
of all of them. She's 32.
Okay. Have you had her the whole 32 years?
I sold her to my makeup lady, who had her for 17 years and then didn't have money to buy her back. So I exchanged her for a couple of ounces of weed back.
So, okay. And all right,
Yeah.
fine. So that's
Yeah.
Diva.
Is
Okay.
that bad to admit that in public? That's my,
Uh,
I just
no,
say stuff. What
I
filter?
think you got a deal,
I
right? You've had
got,
all that companionship.
well, what's really weird is that she remembered me. Like I
Yeah,
walked in
incredibly smart.
to go, yeah. So I've got two others like this who are far more neurotic, and the little green one who sent you the wrong. You're fired. You're not my secretary anymore. Trying to get
Three
Steve on.
parrots.
Three African grays and one black-headed Kaik.
What do you do when they all start wanting to talk at the same time?
Shut the door.
Okay. Put on the noise canceling headphone.
I do.
I,
I have for when I do dishes because the running water sets them off. So if I do dishes, it could be something that, definitely kills my hearing later.
by the way,
Uh-oh.
you are in New York, right?
I am. Are
Okay.
you coming up to
I
New
don't think
York?
I mentioned this to you. I'm coming up to New York on the 26th of
What?
March
What?
because there is a conference called the New Life Expo.
Could be your date?
Uh,
I know maybe that's a little
yes,
too aggressive again. I'm being aggressive again. Sorry.
you could
On
be my plus one. I think
your
I get the
plus
ticket.
one, your platonic date. Can I do that?
Look into check out New Life Expo.
I
There's a
will.
website. It's one of the things I'm sure you like. It's into all the other cool stuff, right?
Oh, Alan Steinfeld's been trying me to get me to come down. So
Yeah, I'll be staying with him.
oh, come on. Okay, you
So,
guys are gonna have to come up here and hang out in the
so
apartment. Come see
you
the
know about the
apartment.
New Life Expo.
I
You've
do
heard.
know of it.
Okay, so
It's
anyway,
just
I'm
always a
coming for that
matter
one.
of scratch.
Fair
Because
enough.
I'm like you. I have no idea, pardon the French, how the fuck to make money
You're not really great
anymore.
at making money, are you? It's not your
I'm
strong
not like
suit.
it's not a friendly place for people who are in the neurodivergent or on the spectrum in any way.
I hear
And I
you.
think, we come off very normal, you and I, like, and a lot of people, but we're not wired the same. We're just not. And the
No, no,
world is
I
not
totally can
friendly.
relate. I'm awful.
Me too.
I miss crypto. I've missed so many boats in my life. I could start my own cruise line. So look,
All right.
so then
I'll see you soon.
we'll check
This
out.
is
Yeah,
so
yeah.
exciting. Oh my God.
20, I think it's the 26th.
I
Okay.
don't care.
Until then, my dear,
Yes. Big kisses, big hugs, and don't take any fake feathers or something.
something like that. All
Bye,
right. Bye-bye.
guys. Thanks for joining us. See ya.
That was fun.
That
All right.
was fun. Well, that was fun. And I managed to not talk so much. I tried really hard. Fun. Oh, I can't believe I get to meet Steve Bassett at the end of the month. That is so exciting. The New Life Expo. Yay! All right, Diva. What do we always say? Thank you for spending linear time with us. Keep riding the frequency. And remember, you're the awareness. See ya.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you one?
Frequency, frequency, frequency.
I'm the LIANE. I'm the LIANE. I'm the LIANE.
Are you ready to ride the frequency? Are you ready to ride the frequency?